Welcome to the SoulBodyHorse podcast, where we dig deep into the horse-human connection. Here we believe in the power of stories, in digging deeper, pushing further, and asking the oft unsaid question. I'm your host, Meredith Crawford. In today's episode, we have a very special guest, Abby Neesen. Abby is an equine-assisted therapist who combines more than 2 decades of experience as a massage therapist with her lifelong love for horses. She and her horses help women experiencing a transition season in their lives expand into their true soul alignment. They learn to release old programming around stress, worry, and fear of the unknown to feeling unbridled freedom in the possibilities of this new season of life. Thanks so much for joining me, Abby.
Oh, thank you, Meredith, so much for having me on. And hey, just real quick, I so appreciate that amazing intro, but I am not a therapist with the horses. So that is very different than a coach. So just for all of those people that are therapists, I don't want to step on their toes, but I am a coach. So I help you with reaching your goals that you want to reach with your business, with your life. So now not necessarily doing therapy, but I am a massage therapist. So I understand the difference. But yeah, so just wanted to throw that in there.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. And that gives us a great jumping off point, which is really talk about being an equine-assisted coach versus therapist, the horses and the humans in your role as a coach versus therapist.
Yeah. So those of us that are, coaches, like we are definitely helping people with some of their past issues, but it's because of what's affecting them now. It's not necessarily we're not drudging up old stuff, and going backwards. We're about, okay, where are you now and how do we get you forward? How do we move, the dial to that goal that you want to achieve? So with what I do with the horses is we incorporate them into goal-oriented activities that are horse-assisted and also horse-led, it's really cool. So, as you already know, horses are herd animals. They mirror, kind of what we're feeling because that's how they communicate in the herd. So when we do these activities, we are able to use that sense that they have as feedback. So quick example. I had a client that we were working on boundaries. And so I set up an obstacle course, and walking the horse through the obstacle course, he bumped her out of the boundaries several times. And so we talked about, okay, how does that show up in life? And, and she talked about at her work and how she lets some of her coworkers kind of like she gets overextended a lot because she doesn't want to say no and all these different things. And so I was like, okay, well, how would you like to approach those situations? And so she was talking that through. And as she's holding the horse, he's bumping her in the belly real gently as she's talking through how she wants to approach those situations. He's like, yes, that's how you need to do it. He sensed her energy shift and is like giving her that confirmation that that's how she needs to handle that. And so I, because most people don't know horse language. So I was like, hey, what do you think's happening here? And she's like, oh, it's almost like he's telling me that that's how I need to do it. And I was like, that's exactly right. And so she was able to do the obstacle course just like beautifully. He didn't bump her out. And it was an amazing session. So yeah.
Wow. And when you say bump in the belly, what immediately comes to mind for me is ignite that third chakra.
Oh, yes. Oh, I love that. Yes. Oh, that's awesome.
It's so interesting how horses are so in tune to even just human energy centers like that, with being aware of where we as humans need to ignite chakras or things. My horse has at times bitten me in the rib cage and in the heart area when I need a little extra heart energy.
That's interesting. I just had one of my horses nibble somebody's left toe pretty hard. And I was like, well, I know that's feminine energy, and I'm not, so yeah, I haven't dove into that, but yeah, if you have any insight on that, that would be amazing.
It's something that I'm always interested in and having conversations with people about.
Yeah. So interesting.
You had me at expanding into true soul alignment. How do you use the horses, or how do you partner with the horses to bring that about?
Yeah. So I have a whole 8-week course. And so we each one builds on the next, each session. And so the way that we are able to really help people, those especially women, I work mostly with women. I have a couple guys that I've worked with, but women seem to just gravitate towards this work a little bit more for whatever reason. But so as we're able to help people get into that alignment, because the horses are showing that truth. You could come into a session and be like, I feel fine, everything's fine. And the horse is going to call bullshit, because they see what's happening. And so it almost forces people to really get into that true alignment from the start, which is so great because it just takes that wall down immediately. Versus like traditional coaching, where it's just, one-on-one with a person. The horse kind of just brings in that whole other element. So with the horses, and I also do a technique called emotional freedom technique, which is tapping on certain acupressure points. Some people are familiar with that. And so it just helps take down emotional charge. It can really help with, if there is some sort of past thing that's happened that's, kind of showing itself and creating issues now, that's something that we can kind of use to help bring that down and allow the client to move forward more into their true soul aligned self, to kind of let go of those old neurological patterns, shed that layer and then step more into the positive. Does that make sense?
It does. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, cool. Oh, thank you. It's pretty amazing to watch. I mean, it still just blows my mind that, these amazing creatures that we work with every day that have the brain the size of like an avocado can, like have this magical sense about them and do this. It's just incredible to watch them work. I just love it.
How have you seen your own relationship with your horses change as you've started to co-coach with them?
Oh my gosh, it has done just like this beautiful 180. It's just great. So I grew up showing horses, and so it was very much like all about what I wanted the horse to do, and it was like, no, you're going to do what I want, and all about bossing the horse, basically like you are the leader, you tell it what to do. That was the vibe. And so when I got introduced to this work, oh my gosh, probably close to 15 years ago, I went to a seminar and was just blown away. I was like, this is incredible of like how these horses pick up on this. And so around the same time, I was doing massage therapy. And so I had already started to do massage on my horses. And so that I could really see a change in the relationship there, just doing the massage therapy. But then when I started to do this work just with my horses now, I did this really cool just trial thing with one of my geldings that was born at my parents' place. That's where I keep my horses. I live in the city, unfortunately. And so I have to drive out a little bit to see my horses. But so yeah, I was down at the barn and I thought, you know what, I'm going to do some Reiki on T. It's my red horse. And I thought, we'll see how he reacts to this because, I really want to get this thing going and let's see, how they do about stepping into some of this energy stuff. And so it was really interesting. It's almost like he knew what my intention was for the day, because when I got there, he was laying down just out in the paddock, no big deal. And the other horse, Dusty, was standing there by him. And so he stayed down, which was unusual. And I was just talking to him and he stayed there. And I came over and started petting on him and running some energy. And immediately I got this vision of his birth. Like I had not thought about that in forever. But that is just like what hit me right out of the blue was me being there because I was the one that helped birth him. I had the vet on the phone and my mom was still, at work at the time. And so I had, pulling, the vet's like, okay, when she pushes, pull the legs. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I was the first one he saw when he was born, and so he immediately started to come to me when he stood up and I had to no, the furry one with the milk, go over here to mama. But yeah, so we've just had that amazing bond ever since, but it was just so powerful. Like when I was doing that Reiki session with him, that is the vision that he sent me. And I mean, I immediately was emotional. I was just like, oh, I love you too, buddy. And it's like so much gratitude is kind of what hit me, in that moment of just him being like really, thankful, for our relationship. And it was like, oh, it still kind of gets me a little bit. But yeah, so it's been just this amazing transformation with both my horses to just see them in their true alignment, and so then how to help other people get to that as well. So it's amazing.
How do you see them work on the women?
So I see it just mostly through the feedback that they give. Okay. I even do some equine, not assisted, but led. So they actually will lead one of the activities. And so the way we do that is I just tell the clients, I said, think of like your intention for the session. Usually we talk about before we begin anyway. I said, is there anything else that you want more clarity on? Or is there like an issue or a situation or a relationship or, whatever, business idea, whatever it is that you want more clarity on. And they usually say, yeah, and so we can do it one of two ways. Like sometimes it'll happen pretty immediately. Like my gray horse, Dusty, one of my clients was thinking of like just wanting some more clarity around some like communication issues she'd had with some family. And he just immediately gave her a little bump, same in the belly, of like, and she was like, oh my gosh, he just gave me my answer. And I was like, oh, well, tell me what happened there. And she's like, I was feeling like, do I just need to let this go? And that's exactly when he gave me that bump. That she's like, I was just thinking about it way too much, way too hard. And she's like, literally, as soon as that thought came to my mind, that's when he gave me that bump. And I was like, awesome. I'm glad that was a great, confirmation for you. And so another way we can do it is I set up 2 cones. And so I say, okay, walk the horse around cone A, and that might be one idea or decision option. And then cone B is another. And so as you walk the horse, you'll feel them either want to come closer to the cone or be further away, or they may want to like slow down or speed up. And you'll even notice the other horse, just that's loose, wanting to gravitate to one side or the other because they're picking up on our energy around the idea. So if it feels like very in alignment, they're going to gravitate towards that as well, versus if it's something we're like, I don't know, then they might be like, nope, that one's not the right one. So it's really cool to see how they pick up on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
How has your understanding of horses changed as a result of doing this work?
Oh my gosh, that there's still so much that we can learn from them and just how their behaviors are and just how we view them, instead of viewing them so much as a tool, but viewing them as a partner. So, I mean, it's just, they're so incredibly intuitive and so they can just see through it all. It's just amazing. It's just wild. I had a really cool meditation experience with my horses. It sounds like totally out there, but I think this is like a good space to be able to kind of share that. But okay, so I have an infrared sauna at my massage office, and I was in between clients, and I thought, I'm just going to take a moment and, sit in the sauna, and I'm not going to have my phone with me, and I'm just going to, like visit my horses in my head. And so what I thought was going to be a very like simple, just relaxing thing turned into this just like profound experience. It was wild. So sitting there, and immediately I see my gray horse, and I'm like, oh, hey. And he, and then I get this vision of this chestnut horse with the big blaze. And this is another, and I'm like, oh, is this Gator, which is, it used to be a pasture mate of his at a family friend's house where I used to board him. And I'm like, oh, I'm thinking in my head, I'm kind of like, imagining telling him like, yeah, I'll talk to Dawn and, see how Gator's doing and, whatever. And he keeps showing me this and keeps showing me this. And I'm like, okay, what? Like, and then the words pop into my mind of clarity and leadership. And I immediately remember us being on a trail ride years and years ago, and we got lost, and Gator kept wanting to go back to this certain area. We're like, you know what? Just let him lead. We'll see where he goes. And he took us all the way back to camp. Dusty was basically, I feel like, giving me this, clarity and leadership, like, hey, be like Gator, like, here's the thing, And then it just transitioned into this amazing piece of where like my red horse was showing me like all of the horses that had passed. So we have 3 horses that have passed at our place. And so his mother, especially, I was super, super close to. Like I had her since I was a little kid. And she even came into the vision and was showing herself as smaller than me, almost like that I was the leader. And then all the horses were standing together facing me. And the horses that have since passed were standing behind T with their ears forward, like almost like a translucent kind of color, like they were ghosty, and they were all as if like the vibe I got was like, hey, we're with you, let's do this thing. And I was just like bawling in the sauna, like, what is this? Oh my gosh. And it was just, I mean, it's still, to talk about it, it just gives me chills. Like, I am just like, oh my gosh, I'm like, it's just wild. I'm like, we can communicate in this way. I mean, I've always heard this from people, but it's like to actually be able to experience it, it's a whole other level. It's been awesome. So.
Wow. What do you think can become possible in the horse-human relationship as a result of these types of experiences?
Yeah, I really think that viewing them as, as partners, there can be just so much healing, come from this relationship. Because like I said, once you step into that alignment that they have and being in the present moment, it's going to decrease your stress, decrease anxiety, which is just so rampant, with so many people. And so, yeah, I really feel like viewing them as a partner and really seeing them for who they truly are versus just as a tool. And I'm going to, you're going to do what I say all the time is a huge shift that if we're able to make that, it's going to just blow people's minds.
Yeah. And that's also partially why I started this podcast.
Yes. Awesome. I love it. I love it. Spread the word, lady. Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, amazing. I love it. So yeah, I'd love to share what kind of brought you to this. Maybe you already have, but yeah, love to hear more about you and how you brought this thing to life.
I share a lot of it during episode 1, but I have this horse Gomez, and right after I purchased him, he developed severe laminitis. And in the process of healing him and trying to bring him home, he basically flipped my world upside down. I like to joke that he's like the white rabbit from Alice in Wonderland.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
I still have him. I've had him now 3.5 years. He's doing well, but he's just taken me on this journey of what is healing and the horse-human relationship and what is possible.
Love it. Oh, I love it. So awesome.
Yeah. I always ask all my guests this, but what is the advice that you would go back and give yourself now?
Oh my gosh, to have started this 15 years ago. I think I had such a vision in my head of what I wanted this to look like, that I wanted this like amazing facility and, the barn and the house. And I wanted to, have retreats and, do all these things. And so I've like started the retreat thing first, and I partnered with another farm, and now I'm, doing the one-on-one sessions and the 8-week, program. But it's like, I think my huge vision almost got in my way. I made it so big and so like untouchable that I stopped myself. I got in my own way too much. And so when I finally decided, you know what, I'm literally holding myself back from helping people. Like, this is stupid. So when I was like, I'm just going to use what I have. It's not fancy. It's, rustic, out in the barn we have, but it works. And I'm, with the horses, and I'm helping people, and we're making a huge difference in people's lives. And, all the fancy stuff will come down the road.
That's great advice.
So don't get in your own way. Don't make it so big that you can't touch it, and do what you can do now. Let's say those would be my 3 tips. That's
really awesome and such a good reminder.
Yeah.
I think so much of us do see the shiny castle vision. Yeah. And when we don't have the castle, or the castle doesn't come immediately, we think the rest of it isn't possible.
Right. Yeah. We get into that comparison too of like, oh, well, they have that. And, I did that with, the people that I partner with the retreats with, it's like, oh, she's doing everything I wanted to do. I'll never have that. Poor me. So I had my little pity party, and I was like, wait, wonder if she would just want to partner with me and like, take my idea, and we can use her horses. And she would loved it. She's like, oh my gosh, yes, let's do it. I'm like, oh, well, that was a lot easier than I thought. So
that's amazing. And so for people wanting to find out about your retreats and your 8-week program, they can go to your website.
Yes. Yeah. So Diversified Wellness Indy, INDY.com. And I'm pretty sure I need to update the date of the retreat. That was from last fall still, so I need to update that. But yeah, all the other information on there is correct. So
awesome. And then for more information about the podcast host, me, Meredith Crawford, and my journey with Relevate and Gomez, and exploration into the depths of the horse-human relationship, you can check out my Patreon at patreon.com/Meredith Crawford Lab. Thanks for listening.